What's up, fam? Welcome back to another chilling chapter. Before we dive into today's twisted mystery, Father Brown vanished without warning. A Father Brown investigation hit me up. What made you smile today? And where in the world are you listening from? I'm featuring your stories in the next drop, so don't be shy. Now grab your tea, dim the lights, and get ready. Because nothing in Whispers in the Fog is ever what it seems. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Vanishing Act unfolds. It was the kind of disappearance that rattled the soul. One moment, a person stood before you, and the next, silence. An empty space echoing with unanswered questions. Like a spectre swallowed by the shadows, Jonathan Hale vanished before the witness's very eyes during a family reunion, leaving behind an elaborate web of lies, twisted secrets, and an unsettling sense of dread. In that instant, the world turned chaotic, suspicion curling its fingers around every heart in the room, and even the air seemed to hum with disbelief. Who would dare to pull off such a surreal stunt? And more importantly, why? As whispers filled the hall like a thick fog, Father Brown, with his keen instinct for the truth, found himself drawn into the fray, navigating a labyrinth of deceit that twisted around him like a serpent. Guests suddenly became suspects, their faces masks, concealing personal motives that delved deep into parallel lives. Lives interwoven with envy, betrayal, and unquenchable desire. With every moment, new layer of complexity was unearthed, each revelation painting a more convoluted picture of Jonathan's tangled existence. From the overly friendly neighbor with a past tethered in jealousy to the estranged sibling harboring deep-seated resentment, everyone wore a facade that marred the line between truth and betrayal, forcing Father Brown to question whether he was surrounded by allies or wolves in sheep's clothing. Just as he thought he was edging closer to a solution, a small, unassuming detail thrust him into another depth of confusion. A photograph hidden at the back of a dusty family album, depicting Jonathan and a mysterious figure locked in what appeared to be a heated argument at the very reunion that now harbored his disappearance. It was the kind of revelation that twisted the stomach and led to a cacophony of emotions. Who was this enigmatic figure? Were they connected to Jonathan's sudden vanishing, or was it merely a red herring, designed to distract from the real threads of chaos? The questions expanded like ripples in a pond, each dive deeper, leading him further into their murky waters. And then came the first big reveal, a letter folded neatly and tucked away in the pocket of Jonathan's jacket. With trembling hands, Father Brown extracted it, only to discover a chilling confession that left him questioning everything he thought he knew. Words of desperation danced before his eyes as Jonathan laid bare the monsters lurking within their family, accusing his nearest and dearest of an unspeakable crime and declaring that he could no longer trust anyone. He cryptically mentioned a plan that he'd set in motion, aimed at escaping from the clutches of his relatives. The weight of those words landed heavily in the dimly lit room, unleashing a tidal wave of confusion. Was Jonathan's vanishing an escape, or did someone orchestrate the entire episode to silence him? With the fog of comprehension shrouding the truth, Father Brown's mind tore between possibilities. Could it be that multiple people were involved in Jonathan's disappearance? The stakes climbed as swiftly as the sun dipped below the horizon, motives entwined more tightly than the intricate knots in a sailor's noose. Envy and anger blurred into a sinister tapestry that suggested far darker intentions than he had grasped. Was his investigation unraveling the threads of a horrifying scheme? Or was he simply painting a picture of his own paranoia? Just when it seemed the revelations could not grow more harrowing, a spider's web of manipulation emerged. Clandestine meetings, veiled threats, and a desperate race against time. Each hour that passed was fraught with rising tension, and seemingly unsolvable knots formed not just in the mystery of Jonathan's vanishing, but in the psyche of the family he left behind. Was it fear or remorse that darkened their eyes? And why did every secret whispered in the dark pull harder on Father Brown's resolve, intensifying his commitment to uncover the truth? "The truth will set you free," he remembered his father saying, but he felt the weight of every lie constricting around him like a noose. And suddenly, as if scripted by fate, a seismic shift rocked their fragile balance. An unsettling message arrived, declaring, "I know what happened to Jonathan." The identity of the sender was cloaked in anonymity, and their audacity sent a jolt of ice down Father Brown's spine. Clarity was further removed, and despair tied knots in his stomach as he learned the sender claimed to know the family's darkest secret, the very one Jonathan was trying to expose. Were they the puppeteer behind Jonathan's abrupt vanishing? Or did they simply revel in the chaos, eager to watch the flames consume the gathered family? As the night deepened and shadows danced along the walls, Father Brown felt the air crackle with energy, each piece of the jumbled puzzle only deepening the void within him. Who was trustworthy, and whose hands were drenched in betrayal? He knew he was standing on the precipice of revelation, teetering on the edge of a storm that threatened to unleash howling winds of truth. Just as he was about to confront the assembled family with what he feared to be the answers, a voice sounded from the very depths of his instinct, urging caution. "I know who did it, but the truth will never be told," Father Brown uttered softly to himself, grappling with the impossibility of unraveling the twisted skeins of secrecy and deception one last time. Would he dare proceed, or had he already dived too deep into a mystery that threatened to consume everyone involved, binding him to an unending cycle of intrigue and despair? As the shadows deepened, the question hung in the air, suspended like the very fate of Jonathan Hale, too tantalizing to ignore, yet too insufferable to understand. Chapter 2. Shadows of the Forgotten Past. The night, Evelyn stepped into the abandoned manor. A chill swept through the air, whispering secrets of a past buried so deep that even the shadows seemed terrified to resurface. She had no idea that this desolate structure held the echoes of lost souls, twisting the hearts of those who dared to uncover its truth. As snowflakes danced lethargically outside the cracked windows, the manor's ominous silhouette loomed behind her, threatening to devour her very existence if she ventured too far into its embrace. The reality was straightforward. Someone had vanished without a trace in this very place, and now she was here, igniting a fire under the smoldering ashes of a mystery no one had dared to unravel for decades. Evelyn knew the risks, yet the allure of the unknown tugged at her. The manor was notorious in town, not only for its ghostly legends, but for the sorrowful tale attached to the disappearance of Amelia Hall, a cherished daughter whose laughter once filled these very halls. They said she had wandered off one cold evening, lost in the shadows, only to become one herself, a mere echo of what once was. Now Evelyn had arrived to pull the threads of this story, but the threads were frayed, tangled with dark motives and obscured truths that taunted her at every corner. As she stepped cautiously into the foyer, the floor creaked beneath her feet, a protest infused with dread. Dust particles floated in the air, illuminated by cracks of moonlight forced through the shuttered windows. Evelyn could almost hear the manor itself groaning under the weight of its history. Her heart raced as she approached the grand staircase, where a portrait of Amelia hung, a haunting reminder of her existence, those piercing blue eyes frozen in time. Why had no one spoken of her since? The townsfolk had turned a blind eye, but Evelyn felt a stirring urgency to uncover the forgotten chapters of this dark legacy. The suspense deepened as whispers of voices filled the air around her, echoing phrases Elizabeth, her best friend, had heard times before during their childhood. "What really happened to Amelia?" was the slogan of these unsettling murmurs, spiraling through the marrow of the walls. Was it just her imagination, or were the walls themselves complicit in holding back the truth, unwilling to let intruders wander freely in their sins? As she moved forward, each deliberate step felt like an intrusion, a blending of the living and the dead that stirred her nerves into a simple braid of curiosity and dread. It was then that she noticed the flickering light at the end of the corridor, an irresistible beacon that beckoned her closer, despite the gnawing sense of foreboding that grew heavier in the pit of her stomach. Just then, a reflection caught her eye. There, in the tarnished mirror resting on the dusty mantel, she saw not just her own face, but shadows, a flickering silhouette that darted past her, sending frigid goosebumps racing down her spine. Panic clawed at her throat, mixing with her desire to uncover more. Had Amelia not been the only one to vanish here? The realization sent her spiraling into a chaotic whirl of questions about who else might be lingering in the darkness, woven tightly into the fabric of this place, draped in secrets. Was the spirit of Amelia reaching out, or was something more malevolent watching her every move? As she closed in on the room where the light persisted, she found herself awash in anticipation. But what awaited her would change everything. Inside, illuminated by the dying glow of an old oil lamp, lay a journal, Amelia's journal, its pages filled with frantic scrawls that spoke of fear, betrayal, and an impending sense of doom. The words poured out in a desperate plea: "I cannot trust any longer. They are coming for me. I have seen things that will destroy us all." The chilling sensation of being watched intensified, coming from the very walls echoed by her heart's pulse that raced uncontrollably. Tanya had warned her to stay away, but Evelyn was caught in a relentless voyage of discovery, unraveling the deep-seated motivations behind the dread that enveloped her. Just as she began to piece together the unsettling entries, a terrible realization struck. A phrase stood out among the others. "Someone close to me wants me silenced." Who could enact such a betrayal? Could the person who had been Amelia's confidant all along be entwined in her dark fate? The air crackled around her, charged with an electric tension that suffocated her senses. Trust began to fracture. Even her own emotions felt tainted, as memories of her friendships with Elizabeth danced before her mind's eye with betrayal's ugly hand. As she grasped the final entry, her breath caught in her throat. "The truth will remain buried, for it is too dark to witness. If you find this, know that..." What could Amelia have been trying to convey? Before Evelyn could even dare to contemplate the implications, the oil lamp flickered violently, extinguishing in an instant, plunging the room into suffocating darkness. Desperate hands reached out to find a light switch or the door. Silently, panic rose. Would she remain trapped here, in the omnipresent shadows of Elise's forgotten past? And then it happened. A groan vibrated through the house, followed by a soft pad of footsteps directly behind her. An urgent gasp lodged in her throat as she turned slowly, every muscle tightening with dread. She had certainly entered the domain of the shadows, but who or what was lurking there? Evelyn's instincts screamed that she was never supposed to unveil the layers of this sinister mystery. Broken trust, dark desires, ghostly whispers, and secrets tangled so intricately it felt like a noose tightening around her neck. But just when she thought she understood, just when she thought she could run or fight her way out, a whisper so raw and cutting reverberated through the stillness. Just 3 simple but life-altering words. I know. Who did it? The voice merged with the shadows, leaving behind only haunting silence, an unquenched thirst for the truth that lingered. This was not just about Amelia anymore. It was about everything she thought she knew. Her friendships, her beliefs, and even her understanding of right and wrong. In that moment, Evelyn recognized she was stuck in a web spun from darkness, confusion, and an unrelenting pull toward truths that were perhaps best left undiscovered. As she stepped back into the hallway, she felt a cosmic weight and dread. She knew who the players were, but understood, painfully, that the truth would never see the light of day. The lingering question in her mind, echoing with each shiver of the floorboards below, was whether she would uncover the rest or be consumed whole by the shadows intertwined with her name. Chapter 3. The Clue That Disappeared. In a world where secrets lie buried beneath layers of deception, the shocking truth is that the person you trust most may be the one orchestrating your downfall. Father Brown stood over the twisted scene in the dimly lit parlor, his instincts screaming in a chorus of dread. The seemingly simple case of a missing heirloom was about to unravel so intricately that it would leave your very foundations shaken, causing even the sturdiest hearts to race. As the rain pounded mercilessly against the grimy windows, he knew this would be no ordinary investigation. It was a plunge into the abyss, where shadows danced with insidious motives. The mystery began with a brazen theft, one that took place under the very noses of the families assembled for the annual winter gala. The exquisite ruby, a symbol of legacy and deceit, had vanished without a trace. Everyone had an alibi, yet every whispered accusation seemed to stoke a fire of suspicion that threatened to consume them all. Father Brown, with his unassuming demeanor, was met with eyes filled with fear, each guest cloaked in an air of denial and dread. But there was something amiss, something dark shimmering just beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered, as a storm brewed both inside and outside the walls of the opulent mansion. As he delved deeper into the intertwined lives of the suspects, eerie coincidences began to surface, revealing hidden animosities wrapped in familial ties. Whispers of betrayal and envy echoed through the hallways, as Father Brown unearthed a journal belonging to the host, filled with elusive references and an unsettling revelation about a family member who had vanished years ago. Page after page, it painted a picture so complex that it felt more like a tapestry of madness than a straightforward narrative. Doubts began to invade his mind. Was the owner a victim of circumstance, or had they orchestrated a symphony of chaos all along? Each word on the pages raised more questions than answers, and Father Brown found himself at a precipice he didn't know whether to leap from or retreat away. Just when it seemed the pieces might fit, a shocking piece of information shattered the fragile web Father Brown had painstakingly woven. In a clandestine conversation, overheard by a maid, it became apparent that the ruby was not merely a family heirloom. It was a key to a far darker legacy, one that spelled ruin for anyone who dared to possess it. The revelation sent tremors of disbelief through Father Brown's mind, forcing him to question the very fabric of the case. Did the theft serve a greater purpose? Were these people the innocent bystanders they claimed to be, or were they puppets dancing to the grotesque tune of a monumental family secret? The psychological dance of trust and betrayal twisted tighter, leaving a fog of uncertainty so thick that it felt almost suffocating. In the climax of the evening, Father Brown gathered everyone in the parlor, prepared to lay bare the tangled web of lies he had begun to unravel. But just as he opened his mouth, the air turned electric with revelation. An unseen player was mingling among them, one who had played both sides, feeding secrets and lies like breadcrumbs in a dark forest. One could almost see the shadows flickering in their eyes, the truths that eroded innocent facades. Before Father Brown could expose the heart of the deception, a loud crash interrupted the gathering, revealing that the one true clue had vanished into thin air. In that singular moment, panic erupted like an explosion, leaving each suspect scrambling, eyes wide with the shock of betrayal. The ruby, it seemed, was never truly stolen. It was a part of a diabolical game, and now everyone was a suspect. As the night deepened and the storm howled outside, the final thread slipped through Father Brown's fingers. A disconcerting realization settled in. He knew who had orchestrated the chaos, but he couldn't unveil the truth. "The truth will never be told," he murmured to himself, grappling with the weight of the knowledge that set his heart racing. Was this a truth too dark to fathom? Was the cost of revealing the mystery far greater than anyone had anticipated? Staring into the faces surrounding him, Father Brown understood that each soul held a sinister story. He had ventured too far into the darkness of their secrets. As the last shot of the chilling scene captured the flickering candlelight play against their anxious faces, viewers were left teetering in the edge of their seats, breathless with the urgency to know, was the heirloom hidden in plain sight? Would these unexpected revelations lead to solace or despair? The deep and intricate psychological layers peeled back to reveal a world so foreboding that it forced you to question what you believed to be true. Some truths are better left buried, but this mystery was unearthing far more than any of them had bargained for. Chapter 4. Secrets Lurking in Silence. It was on the coldest night of the year when Father Brown stood in the shadowy alley, realizing he was staring at a crime scene that defied all logic, a place where silence screamed louder than the screams themselves. The body of a beloved local artist lay sprawled across the cobblestones, her canvas of life splattered with the vibrant reds of a shocking betrayal. As the snow began to fall, dusting the stark reality in a deceptive coat of innocence, the question loomed large in Father Brown's mind. What secrets were buried in the layers of silence shrouding this gruesome act? The townsfolk whispered in hushed tones, eyes darting nervously as the darkness seemed to cling to them like a second skin. A cruel shadow had crept over the town, wrapping its cold fingers around the hearts of those who thought they knew the victim. The woman with the laughter that once lit up the dimmest rooms. But now, those memories felt tainted, and the reverberations of truth echoed unsettlingly. Who could have harbored such deep-seated rage against the very soul they claimed to love? Was it jealousy that led to this chilling conclusion, or was it something far darker lurking beneath the surface? As Father Brown meticulously examined the intricacies of the scene, he unearthed a collection of oddities that confounded him further. A half-finished painting, not of the artist's work, but that of another's, a rival perhaps. The colors on the palette told tales of envy, while the brushstrokes whispered of desperation. Crumbling notes filled with careless confessions lay discarded near the body, and it became painfully clear that in her final moments there were powerful forces at play, manipulating truths until they twisted beyond recognition. With every piece of evidence he gathered, the web of lies grew thicker, and yet none of it brought him closer to clarity. Instead, it veiled him deeper into confusion. Just as Father Brown thought he was approaching a breakthrough, he stumbled across a shocking revelation that shattered his already wavering sense of understanding. The artist had been engaged in an affair, not with someone from her past, but with the spouse of a respected member of the community. Muffled gasps filled the cold air around him. Could illicit passion be the seed of this tragedy? Or was the lover merely a pawn in a malicious game played by someone with unfathomable intentions? The townsfolk had taken to forming alliances, rallying like vultures around the mystery, pointing fingers while their own secrets lay buried beneath their skin. Dark motives that hid in the corners of each one's soul. And then came the twist that sent shivers down Father Brown's spine. Just as he thought he was unraveling the threads of deceit, a hidden note slipped from beneath the artist's lifeless hand, a stark message delivering an ultimatum that would upend everything he believed to be true. It detailed a pact bound by blood and betrayal, hinting at a council of darkness led by one of the town's most venerable figures, a source of authority who had crafted a facade carefully layered with virtue. It raised the stakes impossibly high, causing Father Brown to question his trust in everyone he had met thus far. The weight of the revelations hung heavy in the air as he pieced each thread together. Who could be trusted in a town where every smile hid a dagger? Just when it seemed like the truth was almost within his grasp, fate delivered a cruel blow. A desperate scream cut through the tension, followed by the thunder of footsteps as the clouds above swirled ominously. It became painfully evident that the clock was ticking. Every second, every heartbeat amplified the urgency that enveloped him. Shadows twisted in every corner, and the darkness brought with it a suffocating realization that they were all being watched. Not by a mere murderer hiding in the shadows, but by unseen eyes with motives shrouded in mystery and malice, with chaos looming and unanswered, questions multiplying like ghosts in the night. Father Brown closed his eyes, grappling with the knowledge that the truth he so desperately sought might remain hidden forever. "I know who did it," he whispered, his voice a mere breath against the howling wind. "But the truth will never be told." A final revelation hung suspended in the charged atmosphere, an iron grip on his consciousness, imploring him to delve deeper, yet knowing that with every step, the abyss beckoned ever closer. Would he dare continue into the heart of darkness? As the echoes of betrayal reverberated around him, the choice lay heavy: turn towards the truth, or remain forever ensnared in the silence that clawed at his sanity, driving him to edge of no return. Caught in the storm of confusion and peril, the need to uncover the ugly face of deceit felt overwhelming. But with certainty, every moment spent extracting the truth was another moment spent flirting with the very shadows seeking to entrap him. The world spun violently And as the mystery deepened, Father Brown found himself at the precipice of realization, unable to step back, but terrified to leap forward into the unknown. It left the audience breathless, pulse racing, a thrill of suspense coursing through them as they wrestled with the haunting question: was the truth worth the price of silence? Chapter 5. The Witness Who Knew Too Much in a World where secrets fester like an open wound. One man's testimony threatens to unravel everything. He knew too much, and now he was dead. The room went silent as those haunting words hung in the air, the dread settling in like the creeping fog that cloaked that fateful night. Father Brown stood at the dimly lit corner of the cavernous hall, the flickering gaslight casting long, sinister shadows on the walls, reflecting the turmoil that bubbled beneath the surface of the investigation. But how could a simple witness hold the power to pull the strings of fate in a tale so twisted? It all began with the unsolved disappearance of a local dignitary, a political figure whose proximity to power had garnered both admiration and enmity in equal measure. The community was on edge, whispers of conspiracy and corruption snaking through the dark, putrid underbelly of their quaint town. As desperate voices clamored for a resolution, they soon turned to a seemingly innocuous witness, a librarian with a penchant for collecting secrets, yet what he held wasn't merely knowledge, but a Pandora's box waiting to be opened. Confounding suspicions swirled with every word he uttered, making the edges of the case blur together like a watercolor painting left out in the rain. With every piece of evidence Father Brown uncovered, the truth became a deepening abyss, pulling him and the viewers further in. Torn between the alleviating attempt to connect the dots and the suffocating fear of what would emerge, they soon realized the librarian's enigmatic demeanor was not that of a mere bystander, but a man who had been orchestrating a gallery of hidden motivations. As he recounted his chilling encounter with the dignitary, shadows danced in the corners of Father Brown's mind. Tension mounted as revelations of past friends turned foes cut deeper than any knife, each detail revealing that those who claimed innocence were steeped in treachery. The deeper he dug, the more unsettling his findings became, leading him to dark alleys and even darker hearts. News of the witness's untimely death exploded through the airwaves, polarizing the town between grief and suspicion. What was his connection to the disappearance? Was he silenced before he could spill the secrets that would lay bare a conspiracy so profound it could alter the course of their lives? Father Brown could feel the pressure building, the tightening grip of fear choking off all rational thought. As he shared his newfound suspicions with his trusted allies, their eyes mirrored the conflating emotions of terror and wonder. Each scarier experiment of shadows left their trust in shambles. The line between friend and foe blurred dangerously. And then came the first big reveal, piercing the very fabric of their notions. The librarian had left behind a series of cryptic notes, details that hinted not just at his knowledge, but at something sinister and sprawling. They suggested a hidden cabal operating from the very bedrock of their society, a network of influential figures who would stop at nothing to protect their secrets. Yet the notes were disorganized, as if he had been frantic in his effort to detail a truth he couldn't fully comprehend himself. A path emerged, but instead of leading to answers, it spiraled into a tangled web of lies and deceit. Father Brown was plunged into the shadowy depths of his psyche, questioning not merely the town, but the very nature of humanity itself. The stakes grew unimaginable with each breath he took. As tension climbed to unbearable levels, an even more alarming question materialized. What if the witness was not just a passive observer, but an active participant, sewn into the story of deceit? The revelation left viewers in shock, driving home the brutal reality that sometimes the ones brushing closest to the truth can be the most duplicitous. Faces they thought they could trust turned sinister as Father Brown slipped into his own mind's abyss, trying to differentiate. Around the edges of loyalty and betrayal, feeling uncertainty claw at his very sanity. Each minute unfolded like an hour, leaving them on the edge of their seats, hearts pounding and breaths caught in throats as every second ticked down in suspenseful anticipation. Just when it seemed like the chaos might yield a reconciliation of sorts, the true unraveling began, a cataclysm of unfathomable twists, each more nightmarish than the last. Father Brown turned to confront the last devastating twist of fate, a haunting revelation that sat like a stone within his gut. He locked eyes with the very person he once considered an ally, their features shifting before him like the sands of time. Mistrust laced into every smile, truth stitched into their lies. "I know who did it," Father Brown whispered hoarsely into the darkness, but the truth will never be told. What lay before him, hidden in layers of betrayal, greed, and a loss of fundamental morality, served only to deepen the gorge between right and wrong. The question hung like an icy dagger. Was it better to expose the deceit and shatter lives, or to let the darkness consume the secrets forever? In that chilling moment, viewers were left in a haze of disbelief, desperate for resolution, but equally terrified of the repercussions, torn between their itch for knowledge and the inscrutable mysteries that lay beneath. As the screen faded to black, the lingering words, the prescient whispers of Father Brown, echoed in the stillness. The nightmare isn't just in knowing who did it. It's in realizing some truths are better left buried. Viewers were left suspended in a web of uncertainty, desperate to dive deeper, yet feeling an overwhelming weight that begged them to pause, to step back from a precipice too dangerous to explore. And in that void of breathless anticipation, curiosity surged, knowing they had to know more, but feeling the chilling shadows touch the very edges of their sanity. Chapter 6. The final puzzle piece revealed the moment. The final shard of the shattered mirror slipped from Father Brown's trembling fingers. Everything changed. Its jagged edge gleamed ominously, reflecting not just the room around him, but the twisted truths hidden within the heart of the mystery that had ensnared him. As he knelt, gasping for breath, the realization sank in, like a blade twisting deeper. The killer was closer than anyone had dared to imagine, and the one he trusted most might not be innocent at all. Nothing in life prepares us for the moment when trust transforms into suspicion, when the very fabric of relationships unravels before our eyes, leading us through a dark maze of deceit and betrayal. The case began merely as another investigation, a simple disappearance that spiraled into confusion and terror within a community grappling with the shadows of their pasts. A renowned artist vanished without a trace, leaving behind a gallery of fragmented lives and a canvas splashed with secrets. Each brushstroke had whispered tales of envy, ambition, and dark desire, hinting at the unthinkable. Pieces of evidence littered the path, but every new clue seemed to add layers of complexity rather than resolutions, shrouding the truth further in suspense. As Father Brown delved deeper, the atmosphere thickened with uncertainty. He uncovered journals filled with cryptic notes and half-formed thoughts, the minds of the artist's closest acquaintances laid bare like an open wound. Patterns emerged, yet they led to even more convoluted conclusions, each character tangled in the web. The jealous rival, the supportive friend, the estranged lover, wore their masks with increasing precision. Were they allies in grief or conspirators in a darker game? The answer slipped through his fingers like smoke, taunting him with the possibilities that lingered just beyond his grasp. Then came the first big reveal, a faded photograph hidden within a dusty frame, depicting the missing artist in the company of a chilling individual, a face that sent shivers down Father Brown's spine. It was familiar, yet hauntingly distorted, bearing an unsettling resemblance to someone he'd always trusted. Could it be a coincidence, or was it a sign confirming his worst fears? The image ignited a maelstrom of doubt, not just about the suspects, but about everything he thought he knew. Secrets clashed against each other like thunder, sending ripples of tension throughout the room, and the distant echoes of deceit painted a portrait of doom for anyone involved. But as he decrypted the tangled motives of love, greed, and betrayal, something gnawed at him, a shadow, lurking just beyond the realm of perception. The atmosphere grew increasingly suffocating. Perhaps it wasn't just about the case anymore. Did the artist sow the seeds of his own demise through the exploration of darker themes in his work? And if so, what twisted desires bred in the hearts of those who claimed to cherish him? One question burned in Father Brown's mind. Who was the victim here, really? Each revelation felt like a chained symbol, anchoring him to a past that refused to stay buried. Clutching that sinister photograph, Father Brown found himself grasping at a reality that threatened to collapse in on itself. He could almost hear the whisperings of individual souls, the artist's closest friends, their dreams now tainted with suspicion. The workshop remained eerily silent, yet the tension crackled like static. Would they acknowledge their own darkness if it meant facing the truth? The clock ticked mercilessly, urging him to connect the dots before time ran out, yet every answer he found only spun him deeper into a labyrinth he never meant to enter. The pieces were there, yet they remained obstinately unfathomable. Father Brown's heart raced. He realized an unsettling possibility. What if the truth was buried so deep within the tragedy that even he, a master of unraveling mysteries, would be outrun by its ferocity? Outside, the wind howled like an ominous harbinger of despair, and Father Brown understood that perhaps no one was innocent, not even the seemingly pure-hearted who covered their scars with veils of decorum. With urgency threatening his composure, he reached the staggering conclusion. The darkest secrets are often those we hide beneath our very own skin. What if the true mastermind, orchestrating this wicked game, wasn't just playing with art, but orchestrating the very essence of human despair? And just as despair settled in, another revelation hit him like ice-cold water splashing on a man waking from a nightmare. The missing artist had known too much, had created work that pointed fingers at those within the fold. In a world where talent breeds envy, it becomes impossible to foresee what lengths someone might go to suppress the truth. Then, the ground beneath him trembled, as if the very walls could no longer endure the weight of deception. Just when he thought he was piecing together the fragments of this dangerous puzzle, a voice as soft as a dying whisper, yet as venomous as a serpent's hiss, echoed from the shadows. "I know who did it, but the truth will never be told." The chilling words hung suspended in the air, wrapping around him like barbed wire, cutting deeper into his mind with every passing second. Reality blurred, shifting, as grains of doubt cascaded through his thoughts. In that instant, everything blurred into chaos, a cacophony of emotion and revelation tearing through his mind. Like a tempest, the room spun, and as reality distorted, a specter of confusion enveloped him. Could everything he thought to be true just be another layer of deceit? The implications were suffocating, and without closure, he stood anchored on the precipice, staring into the abyss with no lifeline in sight. Was the truth merely a mirage, a cruel trick played by fate? Father Brown faced the ultimate question. When the darkest of secrets loomed large, were the lost souls within this dangerous game even worth saving? And as viewers are left stunned, their curiosity ignited, yet heavy with disbelief, they can't help but find themselves questioning everything they've seen thus far, shouting silently into the void, desperate for answers that may never come. Chapter 7. Shadows in the Midnight Hour. It was the night. The clock struck 12 when they found the body, her lifeless form sprawled in the middle of the dusty old library, surrounded by volumes that whispered secrets too dark to tell. As Father Brown stepped into the dimly lit room, a chilling gust of wind swept through the open window, carrying with it the scent of regret and betrayal, igniting a desperate urge within him to unravel a mystery that threatened to consume him whole. He had long known that appearances could be deceiving, but nothing could prepare him for the terrifying web of lies he was about to uncover. This was no ordinary murder. It was an intricate puzzle steeped in family debts, hidden vendettas, and a past shrouded in tragedy. The Countess, a woman with a reputation for both elegance and ruthlessness, lay dead under an inconspicuous chandelier that felt more like a sinister eye watching over the scene. As whispers filled the air, the remaining guests, once friends, now mere suspects, exchanged furtive glances, each harboring their own dark motives masked behind well-practiced smiles. It was clear to Father Brown that each had their reasons to wish her ill: a strained relationship with her estranged brother, a financial ruin that threatened a local businessman, and a scandalous affair involving the very husband who now wept in grief. Everyone stood to gain from her tragic demise. As he examined the crime scene, Father Brown's intuition stirred. He spotted an ancient tome lying on the floor, one that looked out of place among the others. Its pages were dog-eared, revealing passages that spoke of betrayal and vengeance. But it was the letter pressed between its pages, written in hurried curls and trembling ink, that sent a shiver down his spine. The contents hinted at secrets buried so deep they could cripple reputations and sever familial bonds. "I will expose you," it read ominously, "and when I do, even the midnight hour will no longer offer you shelter." Who was this mysterious author, and who was their target? The questions rattled in Father Brown's mind like echoes from a haunting past, amplifying the shadows that danced along the library's walls. Just as he thought he was gaining ground on the tangled threads of the case, another revelation emerged that shifted the foundation of the entire investigation. A servant, with trembling lips and wild eyes, disclosed that earlier that evening, the Countess had received an anonymous letter, one that predicted her death with unnerving accuracy. It spoke of betrayal, the servant gasped, clutching the edge of a nearby shelf for balance. Her life was forfeit by the hands of someone she loved. This shocking piece of information turned every glance in the room suspect as Father Brown wrestled with the surreal notion Was it truly possible that someone among them, someone she trusted, had orchestrated her demise? The air thickened with tension, a palpable fear that had settled between the guests, and Father Brown could feel the collective dread tightening around him like a noose. As he tried to piece together the enigma, he stumbled upon a cryptic remark made by the Countess mere days before her death. "I will not be silenced." What had she known, and who was she threatening? The myriad of layers surrounding this case only deepened the shadows in which Father Brown now found himself ensnared. Suspicion loomed larger than life, stretching its cold fingers toward every individual present, leaving him scrambling between the lines of sanity and madness. However, just when Father Brown thought he had pinpointed the culprit, the husband whose tears now soaked the floor, a sudden noise interrupted the swirling chaos of his thoughts. A loud crash emanated from another room, setting off a chain of panicked reactions that left the guests stumbling in confusion. As they rushed to investigate, Father Brown remained anchored in his position, feeling an urge to dig deeper into the undercurrents that rippled through the room. A realization struck him like lightning. This wasn't merely a murder mystery, it was a tragic symphony of betrayal that resonated with the darkest chords of human nature. Each revelation only darkened the abyss he was peering into, raising the stakes higher as he wondered how far each individual was willing to go to protect their secrets. But just as he was about to confront the most suspicious among them, a voice echoed through the shadows, cold, calculated, and dripping with malice. "You think you know what happened, Father Brown," it taunted, a taint of amusement in its timbre. "But the truth is far more convoluted than you're willing to admit." The voice belonged to no other than the estranged brother, emerging from the depths of the house, wielding not just a smirk, but a sense of impending doom that tightened the grip of suspense around everyone present. The air crackled with tension as Father Brown stared him down, the realization beginning to dawn. On him, that old family wounds ran deeper than he could have imagined. "You really think you can conceal what lies within, don't you? But I will lay bare your sins," he replied, his heart racing against the urgent tempo of dread. The brother's laughter echoed, an insane melody that reverberated through the library. "You may have a handle on the riddle of the night, Father, but trust me when I say, you've only unearthed the tip of a treacherous iceberg." So many questions flared in Father Brown's mind, each likelier to drown him than provide clarity. Could he unravel the truth before it consumed them all? Or would he, too, become a pawn in a game far too sinister to comprehend? Just when the tension reached a breaking point, a deafening crash shattered the facade of the room, leaving an empty stillness behind. "I know who did it," Father Brown uttered slowly, "but the truth will never be told." As he trailed off, with shadows still stretching from the midnight hour, a dreadfully chilling thought hung in the air, leaving the viewer teetering on the brink of an overwhelming revelation, one that left them gasping for breath, desperate yet terrified to know what lay beyond the dark veil of secrets. Chapter 8. Betrayal breeds deadly consequences. The moment the clock struck midnight, a blood-curdling scream shattered the stillness of the dimly lit manor, a cry that would unveil secrets buried deeper than anyone ever could have guessed. It echoed through the hallowed halls, wrapping around the shadows like a noose tightening, igniting a fire of suspicion that consumed all who dared to linger. What happened in those fleeting, panicked moments? What dark revelations lay coiled beneath the surface, threatening to suffocate everyone involved? As we plunge deeper into this spiraling web of deceit, prepare yourself, Because in a world where trust is the most dangerous gamble of all, who could possibly be safe? Within the grand, crumbling walls of Evermore Manor, betrayal lurked like a spectre, waiting to pounce. This was a family enamored with appearances, enchantingly beautiful yet profoundly fractured. At the heart of it all was Father Brown, the enigmatic priest with a mind like a steel trap, who stood on the precipice of uncovering a truth too terrifying to fathom. He sensed the simmering tension brewing beneath the surface, the polite smiles exchanged at dinner, veiled ulterior motives sharper than knives. Each family member seemed to hold a fragment of the puzzle, pieces that would make anyone dizzy trying to fit them together. The atmosphere was thick with unsaid words and unconfessed sins, binding them in a web of secrets too precarious to sustain. As Father Brown sifted through the ashes of the scream that echoed through the night, he stumbled upon something wholly unexpected, a hidden letter tucked beneath the floorboards of the study. The ink was smudged and the paper yellowed with age, yet the intent was unmistakable. It was a confession steeped in greed and jealousy, revealing long-standing betrayals that could fracture bonds tighter than blood. But instead of clarity, the letter only bred more confusion. Who was the author? Was it a plea for forgiveness or a cry for help? The implications twisted the very fabric of the family, leading Father Brown to question everything. After all, how well do we truly know those we love? Just as clarity seemed imminent, the first shocking reveal emerged, sending a chill through the air. One of the family members, long assumed to be a benevolent figure, was revealed to have orchestrated a web of manipulations extending years back. Veins of animosity ran far deeper than anyone could have imagined, and betrayals intertwined with dark truths began to surface, tarnishing even the purest of intentions. Instinctively, Father Brown felt the walls of loyalty closing in like a vice, making it exceedingly clear that no one was as they appeared. This new twist seemed to explode the notion of trust into fragments so small that no amount of glue could ever bind them again. As the night wore on, Father Brown's deliberations grew increasingly tangled, fraught with questions that looped endlessly. Had the scream belonged to the victim or the aggressor? Was that blood on the floor truly what they thought it was, or a misdirection meant to lead them astray? Pervasive layers of darkness enveloped the truth like a dense fog, each revelation obscured by another mystery that plunged deeper into the heart of betrayal. Each footprint seemed to lead to two separate paths, causing him to question the very nature of culpability. That perhaps in this gathering of innocence, masquerading as guilt, every overturned stone only birthed a host of new uncertainties. In due a harrowing twist, a fragile voice interrupted the deliberations, proposing a question that hung in the air like a death knell. Was the scream meant to silence someone or to awaken us all? With those words, the ground beneath their feet seemed to crack, inviting chaos to seep through the seams of a once familiar reality. Every glance exchanged held secrets that now threatened to spill over, unraveling the last vestiges of confidence. Father Brown felt his heart race. Could it be possible that he was navigating an intricate game with rules hidden from his sight? The stakes were raised, and with every tick of the clock, time itself became an adversary. And just when it appeared things couldn't spiral further into the abyss, the lighting flickered, bathing the room in eerie shadows. A photograph tumbled from a shelf, its glass shattered in a haunting resonance that echoed the screams from earlier, revealing a ghost from the past. As the pieces began to align, a picture not of a single betrayer, but a tapestry rich with complicity unfurled before his eyes. An unsettling sensation gripped Father Brown. Perhaps every single one of them had entwined themselves in the betrayal at one point or another, in a bid to secure their failure or devastate the very ones they cherished the most. With tension thick in the air and answers seeming more elusive than ever, the final moment of revelation arrived with an unexpected twist. Leaning closer to the now cracked photograph, Father Brown's breath caught as he began to unearth a horrific possibility, one that stretched far beyond vengeance, a revelation that insinuated an unthinkable choice had been made by one of them in the name of love and sacrifice. They might pay the ultimate price for their desires, a price with price tags not just in blood, but in hollowed-out souls. "I know who did it," he murmured, feeling the weight of the world crash onto his shoulders. But the truth will never be told. Not yet. And with that, the narrative spiraled, leaving the viewers dangling at the edge of their seats, questioning their perceptions, their own deductions, and whether the line between villainy and virtue could ever be truly drawn. As the screen faded to black, they were left grappling with revelations too dark to digest, and consequences too harrowing to ignore, forcing them to confront the unsettling question. In a story wrapped in betrayal, who could really be trusted? Chapter 9. The blood-stained letter's secret blood dripped from the envelope as it landed on the polished table, a chilling crimson message that promised doom to anyone brave enough to look closer. Inside, a letter scrawled in frantic handwriting revealed not just a secret, but several. As the words unfolded under the flickering candlelight, a love turned to rage, a friendship shattered by betrayal. Each line escalated the stakes in ways that were unimaginable. The mystery, now layered in complications, appeared unsolvable, and by the time Father Brown became entangled in this web of uncertainty, shadows coiled around the very core of his being. The blood-stained letter wasn't just a horrid relic of someone's despair. It was a ticking time bomb ready to explode the lives of everyone involved. As the evening progressed and whispers filled the air, it became evident that the letter had been delivered just moments before. A key figure was discovered lifeless at a nearby estate. What was the connection? The local townsfolk were eerily tight-lipped, guarding secrets that matched the darkness of the night itself. Father Brown, driven by curiosity and moral conviction, found himself walking a thin line between revelation and insanity, all while the clock ticked ominously in the background. Each revelation seemed to aid in uncovering a deeper layer of treachery. Strangers became foes, and friends transformed into enemies. Father Brown's typically sharp intellect began to fray. He uncovered a hidden affair, shadows of envy and betrayal lurking within the hearts of those closest to the victim. The more he investigated, the more convoluted the truth became, as if each character was ensnared in a personal abyss that blurred the boundaries of right and wrong. Everyone had something to gain, and everyone had something to hide. But what would drive one to murder? In a chilling twist, Father Brown stumbled upon a photograph sewn into the corner of the letter that revealed an impossible connection. Two souls entwined in circumstances each shadowed by the same blood-soaked history. The photograph depicted a past so dark that it turned stomachs, sending ripples of despair through Father Brown's heart. He felt the walls of the room close in, the very air around him crackled with tension. The victim, it seemed, was a mere pawn in a game played by sinister minds, each move designed to inflict pain and suffering. But who was truly behind it? Could the betrayal reside within a family member, a supposed ally, or perhaps an innocent bystander caught in the wrong place at the wrong time? And then it happened, a shocking reveal that pulled the thread of trust, unraveling the entire tapestry. A whisper of a name fell into Father Brown's ear, spoken in such a way that it changed everything. A beloved mentor now existing in the shadows, seen as an embodiment of virtue and wisdom. How could someone so revered harbor such dark, fevered emotions? Could they possess the same motive as the murderer? Or did they play the puppet master, stringing others along for the sake of revenge? The questions surged like a tide, overwhelming him, leaving him grappling for clarity amidst the chaos. As the narrative tightened, every character seemed entangled in an unholy alliance, driving Father Brown closer to the precipice of despair. He felt trapped, the layers of deceit wrapping around him like a noose. If nothing was as it seemed, what path could lead him to the truth? The corridors of the mind twisted into knots, with every decision spiraling him deeper into madness. The burden of understanding soon became too heavy. An insatiable curiosity morphed into an unstoppable urge to flee from the suffocating revelation. Who could he trust? Who was the puppet? And who was the puppeteer? The ominous night didn't just cloak the town. It suffocated the hope of unraveling the truth. Just when the signs pointed toward closure, the tension reached a breaking point. A final piece of evidence came to light that shattered everything once more. Father Brown questioned the very foundation of his own morality, haunted by the echoes of lives intricately woven together by sorrow and bloodshed. As a shadow veered from the corner of the room, his heart raced. If he had been so wrong about the clues leading him to hidden secrets, what was lurking beyond them was a far greater mystery, one that would shatter his world into myriad shards. One truth holds within an ocean of lies, he muttered, realization dawning upon him like a grim spectre. Was it possible that the truth itself was not just elusive, but artfully constructed to protect the guilty? Hours went by, yet each moment wove him deeper into an infinite cycle of despair over the very lives lost, whose histories were twisted and whose motives led to fatal consequences. As he prepared to step outside the door, a single thought echoed hauntingly in the depths of his mind, leaving him paralyzed. I know who did it, but the truth will never be told. And with that, the blood-stained mystery swirled around him, a cyclone of despair where answers were forever locked away, leaving echoes of dread hanging in the moonlit night. The questions lingered as darkness descended, filling the viewers' hearts with a chilling uncertainty, a knot in the pit of their stomachs impossibly unraveling the closer they came to the truth, leaving them lost in a labyrinth of psychological depth and moral ambiguity. What lay at the end of this twisted road truly remained shrouded in darkness, and only the bravest dared to venture further into its depths. Chapter 10. Echoes of a Crime. Unfolding in a quiet town where secrets fester beneath the surface, the discovery of a blood-stained letter brings the past crashing into the present, revealing a web of deceit so tangled that every villager's alibi is called into question. Just when you think you know the story, every truth bends at an unnatural angle, and the dark motives lurking in the hearts of even the most trustworthy characters leave you frozen in disbelief. As each new twist emerges, you realize that not only is the mystery far from solved, but it may deliver a body blow to your understanding of morality itself. Late one stormy night, Father Brown stumbles across whispers of a crime that echo through the cobblestone streets like phantom footsteps. What begins as a simple investigation quickly spirals into a labyrinth of shattered lives and festering resentments. A seemingly innocuous gathering of townsfolk dressed for celebration transforms into an explosive revelation where hidden grievances ignite like dry kindling. Every smile masks a question: who is truly innocent, and who harbors a darkness that could crush an unsuspecting soul? As he delves deeper, Father Brown uncovers notes hidden in the town's dusty archives, their ink smudged, but their implications undeniably clear. A missing child, unquiet ghosts from a decade past, and a mother's desperate plea entwined with betrayal. Pieces of the past begin to surface. Liars claiming righteousness, honorable figures concealing vices, but each revelation seems to pull Brown deeper into an abyss of confusion rather than clarity. He realizes too late that in seeking truth, he may destroy everything and everyone he holds dear, as the lines blur terrifyingly between right and wrong. Then comes a chilling moment that shakes the very foundation of the already trembling case. An eyewitness rushed to the scene. That fateful night turns up dead, yet not by mere misfortune. Their compelling confession, caught on a barely functioning tape recorder, implicates someone who seems, on the surface, beyond reproach. The voice crackles and fades, leaving Father Brown with more questions than answers. How could someone so seemingly virtuous harbor such ghostly-laden secrets? The audience can feel their heart racing as they realize that even the person whose face they've long trusted now melts into the shadows of doubt. Just as the truth feels graspable, a new twist unfurls itself, leaving viewers gasping. Another letter, this one stained in the unmistakable colors of desperation, arrives. It speaks not of guilt, but of complicity, a web spun from a group of innocent-seeming neighbors who hold a damning secret. They all knew, but no one dared to speak. That is, until the secrecy became suffocating and the walls of unity disintegrated. Isolated declarations of guilt and blame float through the air, and suddenly, the very pillars of trust crumble away, leaving the community teetering on the edge of chaos. As the clock counts down toward the inevitable conclusion, Father Brown, surrounded by phantoms of the past, realizes that he is emotively entangled in the lives of all those he seeks to save. Every revelation he brings to light threatens to unmask not only the killer, but also the darkness lurking within those who believe themselves to be innocent. In that moment of ultimate tension, the viewers, captivated yet horrified, can't help but shout inwardly, "What will become of them? What is the hidden truth? Which soul has the blood on their hands?" As the piece surges toward its climactic moment, Father Brown faces the camera, his brow furrowed like a map to an unwelcome destination. He looks straight into your eyes, palpable fear electrifying the air. "I know who did it," he whispers, his voice drenched in gravity, his expression lamenting the burden of truth. But the truth will never be told. With that, an unspeakable silence blankets the scene, leaving you to wrestle with the convoluted implications of his statement. The lingering question curdles in the pit of your stomach. What atrocities lie buried beneath those unspoken words? Out of sheer shock, you might find yourself unable to hit play again or unable to look away. The mystery isn't just tantalizing, it's a habitual nightmare, leaving you wondering if the darkness is so deep that you will feel its weight long after the video ends? What have you learned about trust, truth, and betrayal? As the screen fades to black, leaving only echoes of the unresolved conflict behind, you are left breathless, trapped in a disconcerting moment where your longing for answers battles against your fear of confronting the darkness that is so intricately woven into the lives around you. In that instant, as your mind races like an unhinged clock, you know that the question of who and why will haunt you, perhaps without resolution. And just like that, you are left in a state of overwhelming suspense, rooted in your seat, wondering just how far you're willing to delve into a mystery that may unveil truths far too chilling to face. How can you stop now? Chapter 11. The Enigma of the Dark Alley. The chilling scream that shattered the midnight silence was no ordinary sound. It was the final breath of a man whose secrets were buried deeper than the shadows harboring his ghost. With every heartbeat, the cobblestone streets whispered murmurs of dread, drawing unsuspecting souls into the sinister embrace of the dark alley, a place where truth and illusion danced a dangerously deceptive tango. Father Brown, the venerable detective with a penchant for unraveling the deepest enigmas, found himself standing at the mouth of that abyss, enveloped in the thickening fog of dread and uncertainty. As he stepped carefully into the alley, the flicker of a dying street lamp illuminated a world where every corner held a hidden past, and every shadow seemed to twist into something ominous. Tonight, he would confront not only the murder that had unfolded here, but the very fabric of human deception that lay tangled within. This was not merely a case of who had slain the merchant. It was a probing into the psychology of fear, desire, and raw vengeance. What initially appeared to be a straightforward murder case quickly twisted into a labyrinthine puzzle, where the truth remained distant and blurred. The deeper Father Brown delved, the more he felt the oppressive weight of darkness close in on him, tightening its grip with every piece of evidence he uncovered, leaving him questioning if he truly knew the motives of even his closest allies. Reports of the merchant's illicit dealings had spread through the town like wildfire, igniting suspicions, and suspicions suddenly morphing into accusations. Yet, amidst the cacophony of claimed alibis and shadowed contradictions, Father Brown discovered something far darker, a connection that tied the merchant not just to greed, but to betrayal. Hidden letters, whispered promises of revenge, and well-guarded secrets, implicating a circle of individuals whose lives had crossed paths under the veil of night, all with motives lurking just beneath the surface. Each revelation only thickened the plot, leading him down a treacherous path where trust eroded into paranoia. As he shared his findings with Inspector Wilson, a flicker of doubt ignited, raising questions that perhaps the ones who screamed the loudest were not innocent victims, but cunning players in a ghoulish game. The first shocking reveal struck like a dagger to the heart, when Father Brown stumbled upon a tattered journal tucked behind a loose brick in a nearby wall. Its pages were stained not just with ink, but with the unyielding darkness of guilt. He deciphered chilling accounts, graphic confessions of plans to eliminate the merchant. But with each confession written in desperate strokes came the haunting realization that the writer might still be among them. Someone who had walked the alley just hours before the murder. Someone whose very fear of exposure drove him deeper into treachery. With adrenaline coursing through him, Father Brown felt the unsettling urge to reassess everyone he thought he could trust, as the realization settled that in this sinister game, It was not just the murderer who was determined to hide their sins, but just as the weight of revelation threatened to crush him, another twist unraveled, an unexpected alibi that defied logic itself. A local barmaid claimed she had seen the merchant alive well past the hour of his presumed death, an impossible contradiction that shattered the fragile structure of truth they had begun to build. With her revelations, freshly kindled suspicions ignited again, calling into question the motives of every character involved, including the very heart of the investigation. Had they all been ensnared in a web meticulously woven by a master architect of chaos? As the mist thickened once more, Father Brown stood at a precipice, his mind racing through possibilities that spiraled into darkness, feeling as if he were kneeling on the edge of insanity, teetering between methodical deduction and sheer confusion. The atmosphere now vibrated with an intensity he could hardly bear, promising a revelation that would tear the veil off their fragile reality. As he contemplated the rotten core of deceit festering amid lies and half-truths, Father Brown confronted the daunting question lingering over the investigation. Could he decipher not just who had committed the crime, but also the motive that propelled it? The tension thickened, making him wonder if perhaps it wasn't merely a pursuit of justice, but a sinister play orchestrated to reveal truths that were perhaps better off shielded in darkness. Now, standing in a place where time seemed to fold upon itself, Father Brown felt an overwhelming rush of apprehension about what lay ahead. He could feel the presence of unseen players in this theater of the absurd, individuals whose ambitions twisted around their hearts like sinister vines. Just when he believed he could tie loose ends, the shadows beckoned once more, and the alley's grip tightened like a noose around him, urging him toward an unsettling conclusion. The truth that could shatter everything he once believed about human nature. Shadowy figures flitted through his mind's eye as he envisioned the suspects, all wearing masks crafted by their darkest fears. Could he really identify a murderer when faced with a constellation of dark motives? His instincts screamed to run, yet every sinew in his being begged him to press on, to face whatever horror awaited within the depths of that dark alley. "I know who did it," Father Brown murmured, his voice a fragile thread of certainty amidst a storm of confusion. But the truth will never be told. As the atmosphere thickened and darkened, it was clear that the next move would set the stage for an explosive confrontation, leaving viewers breathless with trepidation and unable to grasp what would occur next. Fear gripped their hearts, forcing them to confront a mystery so entangled it became a haunting reflection of their own doubts. As the scene of intrigue dissolved into darkness, unanswered questions loomed like shadows, and the audience was left grappling with the overwhelming need to know more, but burdened with the whispers of a chilling truth that remained just out of reach. Chapter 12. Truths that challenge beliefs. The last words spoken over the lifeless body were not the whispered confessions of a guilty man, but a chilling declaration of innocence that shattered everything we thought we knew. In that suspended moment, as shadows danced on the walls of the dimly lit room, one undeniable truth hung heavily in the air. The murderer could be anyone, even, perhaps especially, those we trusted the most. As Father Brown stepped into the quaint village of Eldridge Hollow, a sense of unease settled within him. Whispers of a missing person melded with tales of sinister secrets buried beneath the surface of local life. This was not just any mystery, it was a tapestry of connections and betrayals that seemed to weave through the very fabric of the community. The more he learned, the more it seemed that the threads were fraying, unraveling an intricate web of lies that had snared the entire town. But amidst the confusion was a chilling truth. Eldridge Hollow was hiding something monstrous, and everyone held a piece of the puzzle. Father Brown was soon drawn to the heavy-eyed constable, who spoke in hushed tones about the last known whereabouts of the missing man, Philip Bardwell. The police had discovered a series of abandoned journals containing unspeakable reflections on human nature, a darkness that hinted at the very reason for Philip's disappearance. In those pages lay buried secrets of infidelity, jealousy, and madness, intertwined in a way that made one wonder if the heart of this village pulsed with mystery or malevolence. The constable's warnings echoed in Brown's ears. "Be careful, Father. The truth may be darker than you think." And yet what choice did he have but to continue? The deeper he delved, the more he uncovered unthinkable motives hidden beneath the surface of everyday lives. A bespectacled widow, obsessed with the past, spoke fervently of her late husband's unfulfilled ambitions, which began to sound disturbingly relevant to Philip's fate. A once respected teacher, now riddled with guilt, revealed a web of past offenses that were silenced just as swiftly as they were described. Each new testimony unraveled another thread, creating a fabric of intrigue so complex it left Father Brown questioning the viability of even the most innocent-seeming villagers. It was evident there was a darkness lurking, one that manipulated emotions and distorted the very nature of truth and trust. Then came the first monumental revelation that sent shockwaves crashing through Brown's mind. An anonymous tip hinted at a clandestine meeting, where Philip had confronted a person of influence, a name that echoed through the village and sent chills down spines. When Brown brought that name to light, villagers exchanged nervous glances, their previous confidence melting into a cocktail of confusion and dread. Who were the true guardians of their secrets? As the unsettling truth began to unfurl, it became apparent that Philip wasn't just another victim. He might have become a fatal pawn in a game far beyond his comprehension. A pawn manipulated by forces more sinister than local gossip could contain. Just as it appeared things couldn't get any darker, Father Brown discovered a hidden file. Everyone in the village had been a suspect in the eyes of others. And curiously enough, every alibi, every claim of innocence, had holes big enough to drive a truck through. Each revelation was a tidal wave crashing against the shore of reality, pulling the viewers along with it, leaving them gasping for air while also wanting to dive deeper into the ocean of darkness around them. It was as if the light was fading out of the town, one secret at a time. And just when Brome thought he had stitched together some semblance of the truth, there came the twist, an answer that threatened to unmoor even the staunchest of beliefs. He ventured into the heart of the village, seeking out an ancient relic that many believed was a guardian of justice, the village's own confession booth. But the moment he stepped into the musty chamber and turned the latch, he was met not with cautious whispers, but a shattering confession that revealed an ally might be working against him from within. A dark reality unfolded, causing him to reevaluate everyone who had stepped into the light of investigation. Was anyone truly innocent? As the clock ticked on, it became increasingly difficult to discern the truth. Friends turned into foes, and trust began fraying, caught in the grip of confusion as suspicions mounted and alliances shifted like sand, and with every moment that passed, the sense of dread deepened, leading to the ultimate question. Could Father Brown ever solve this mystery, or had he simply become ensnared in it? As he peered into the abyss of betrayal and hidden motives, one thing became painfully evident. No one was who they appeared to be. But just as our detective stood poised to make a decisive move, his heart sank, for he realized he had uncovered a terrible truth that no one would dare to acknowledge. With every fiber of his being, he felt the weight of the unspoken, the chilling ultimatum resting on his conscience. "Perhaps I know who did it," he uttered quietly, a tremor in his voice, "but the truth will never be told." Those words hung in the air like a fog, leaving viewers trembling with anticipation, desperate for a resolution, yet frightened of what might come next. What now? Who would bear the burden of revelation? The darker the convoluted threads of the narrative began to twist, the more viewers might feel their hearts race. They were left at the edge of uncertainty, forced to confront the complex interplay of human emotions that had woven this enigmatic tale, caught somewhere between overwhelming fear and morbid curiosity. After all, how well do we truly know those around us? And what dark truths are each of us hiding?